And he said, Mom, I made my first enemy. And I said, really, who? And he said, it's Ellie's mother-in-law's neighbor. And I said, why? He said, I don't know. He just bothers me all the time. I said, do we need to go downtown? He said, no, Mom, you know I don't like confrontations and stuff like that. I said, well, do I need to say something to him? He said, no, I just was telling you.
Jacksonville 911, what's the location of the emergency?
2 houses down from me, somebody's just shooting off a gun while I'm sitting outside, and I hear 2 people arguing.
Do you know if anyone was shot?
I don't know. I didn't go down there. I literally just picked up the phone because I was sitting on the front porch when it happened.
And how many shots did you hear?
At least 3.
And I had mentioned to Keegan I kept having a dream. I said, you know, be careful because I keep having a dream that you're going to die in a car. And he says, oh, Mom, it's okay. I don't drive like I used to. I can drive now. And it's so funny that it was the first time I ever watched Deniley. They asked me to watch her so they could go on date night, spend some time alone together. And I was excited. I said, sure, you know. About 12 or so, roundabout, my daughter calls and she says, Mom, get your shoes on and your clothes and get your purse and come to the door. And I said, I'm already ready. So when I went to the door, I looked at her and she said, it's Keegan. Something's happened, something terrible. And I looked at her and I said, he's dead, isn't he? And she just started screaming.
And we were just sitting in the car talking, and then we hear all of a sudden like a knock on the back window, and we look at each other and we was like, you know, did we both just hear that? And we was like, yeah. So we look to the side and Michael approaches us on his driver's side of the window, and he's just like waving that same piece of plastic from the morning, and he looked us both, you know, in our eyes, and he knew we were sitting in the car. So you know, Keegan opened the door and asked him, like, you know, what are you doing out here so late? And he's like, I'm tired of your trash. I need you to pick it up. And he was like, man, just leave us alone and go home. He closed the door. And then Michael just continued, you know, to stand there just looking at us and staring at us. So then, you know, Keegan opened the door again and was like, didn't I tell you, you know, to go back to your yard and go home, just leave us alone? And he was like, no, you know, I'm tired of you trashing up my neighborhood and I'm tired of you trashing up my yard, you know, which is not true. I always make sure that I pick up, you know, any kind of debris outside of our house or anything like that. So he was like, man, you know, just leave us alone once again. Close the door. And then Michael went and taped the piece of plastic with a note on it on the window. And then, you know, that's where, you know, Keegan kind of got agitated and just opened the door. And when he did, Michael started asking him, oh, you want to play? Now you want to play? Let's play. And then they, you know, Keegan got out the car and then they started, you know, arguing. They started, you know, saying cuss words at each other. And then, you know, they started like physically fighting and tussling a little bit. And at that point, like, you know, I couldn't see anything. It was dark outside and the windows were tinted in the back, so I couldn't see anything. And next thing I hear is just gunshots. And, you know, I opened the door and I ran over to the other side and I see Keegan lying on the floor and he's not saying anything and Michael's just staring at him, you know, dying. And I was like, Michael, what in the world did you just do? And then he starts like grabbing his head like this and shaking it back and forth. And he just ran into his house. And then that's when I ran back over to the car. I grabbed my phone and I called the police and I checked on Keegan and he, you know, he was still breathing, but he was gurgling. He wasn't saying anything to me.
Donna. I think the neighbor, my friend's our neighbor, just pulled the gun out of my husband and shot my husband.
You think your neighbor shot your husband?
I know he did. Please, can you hurry up, please? Lives right across the street. He has a white truck. His house is like green man. It has a tree stump. Has a mailbox. It has an American flag.
Okay. Where's your husband?
He's laying on the floor.
In front of your house or his house?
Please, in front of our house.
Take a deep breath for me, okay? What's your last name? Ma'am? Ma'am? Hello? Ma'am? Ma'am? Hello? Ma'am, I need to... Hello? Ma'am? Ma'am? Hello?
I do think this was racially motivated, partially because some of the things that Centanni said to them previously. Of course, he says that he's not, but he was. I mean, he watched, he waited, he baited my son. He kept a ledger on him, a log on him. So one of the neighbors that came to me, we were passing out flyers, and she said, I just want to tell you how sorry I am and that I was afraid, you know, I am afraid. And she said, but I heard everything, and your son begged him 3 times to leave him alone. I did hear that, and then I did hear the gun, you know, go off. He said that he actually said in his interview that he watched Keegan. He didn't want to send him to jail, take him away from his family, but he was not going to allow him to ignore him. Even if he thought Keegan was doing something wrong, he should have called the police and let them handle it, which he had called the police on him previously, from what I understand, twice, and they never came. So it must not have been too important.
It's been terrible. You know, I have a daughter, and it's hard. I try to keep my composure as much as I can, and, you know, I have to because she sees me. I have to be strong, you know, for his family too, and, you know, just his friends and everybody that loved and appreciated him. But at times, you know, when I see my daughter, like, looking around for him and, you know, asking about him, it really gets to me because she's so young and she didn't have, like, anything to do with this. Like, she shouldn't have to suffer and not live the rest of her life without her dad because of somebody else's actions and mistakes. So besides that, like, me and Keegan were so close. We were like yin and yang, and we never like stayed away from each other for long. Like, the only time that we ever stayed away from each other was when he had to go to work, only because he had to. But, you know, those couple of hours were terrible for me, you know. It was very agonizing. We did everything together. We showered together, ate together. Like, we just did every single thing we could together. So, you know, now transferring from that and, you know, going to having to spend the rest of my life without him, it's a hard pill to swallow. So it's just something that I'm eventually have to get used to.
I don't feel like I have justice for Keegan. I know my son didn't deserve what happened to him. Like I said, he was a very passive person. He didn't go look for trouble. He ran from trouble. He's always been like that. If there was trouble, he went the other way. So for him to even get out of the car that night, he had to really, really be baited. And justice hasn't been served, and I have said this in many interviews, if it's my last breath, it'll be served.